Yo, yo, what's up, everyone? I'm here live with Mario.
What up?
From Elektron,
Welcome.
as always. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Yo, what's up, Jordan, Tove, Ghostface, Christian, that's great to hear. QSLFNQ, what's good? Slide Trigger. Yeah.
Ludwig.
Yep, Ludwig's in the building. Awesome. Yo, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks for saying what's up. We're here, of course, with two Digitakt IIs in the ultimate stereo. We're going to do a quadraphonic set. I'm kidding. Where this one's mine, that one's Mario's. He's got the dope chops on it, playing his thing. And we just kind of wanted to run through some of the fun, cool features that the Digitakts can do, and across us using them for a little bit now. We're finding weirder ways to use them and cooler ways, and just like interesting things. Like I find that Digitakt almost has like this hidden synthesizer in it, with the comb filter and even just the loop points and all these other weird things. And Mario's going to be talking about a lot of the
Trig modes, and just kind of like just the features that are in the Digitakt that you know, are not in Digitakt 1, and different ways that you can utilize it, workflows, tips and tricks, just having fun with it.
But yeah, hopefully you can hear us all right. If not, at any point, let us know. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat. Make sure to use question marks so I can see them easily. I got my eye on the chat right now. Sound control, what's good?
What up?
Tight. Yeah, Mario, let's talk about some trig modes.
Tight. Yeah, so as we know, the Digitakt II now has different trig modes, which means it's going to turn these 16 trigs into different ways that you could control your sample and use the Digitakt. So if we go into here, just have a bunch of different sounds loaded up here. So the first trig mode, as we all know, is just going to be your tracks, which is kind of very useful. You have access to all your tracks. But if we start scrolling down to velocity, this is kind of straightforward, right? You got 16 levels of velocity, which can be very useful for you know, making more expressive patterns, especially because these trigs do not have velocity built into them. So being able to have those 16 levels really expands your expressiveness in the device when you're recording live. So if I go into here, if I play something like this, you know, obviously straightforward. If I go to record, if I go into my page here, I can look at my trig levels, and all of those velocity moments get recorded into the sequence. Very useful. Velocity is obviously your level of your sample that's going to be being played. It's MIDI information. The really dope thing about this in the Digitakt II is that when you have your sound, you have the ability to assign and set up your sound kind of like parameters and the way that MIDI affects it. So one of the things that I wanted to show with this, let me turn this up so you could, obviously that's controlling the level, but if we go into setup, function, setup, we have your kit setup and your track setup. And right now I want to set different parameters to the velocity so that as I go up in velocity, it changes the parameters that I set. So what I want to do is change velocity to volume off, because you have different curves that affects the way that the velocity changes the volume of the track. But right now I'm going to turn it off. So now the same velocity, same volume across all velocities on this trig mode.
Right, because this is the lowest velocity, and then this is the highest velocity, but it's the same volume now, because you turn that off.
Exactly. And basically what velocity is just linked to and hardwired to is your volume, but you have the ability to turn it off in your track setup. And here in your track setup, you have velocity mod. And now what we could do, if you could see, you could see the velocity turning up as I go up, as I go down. You have 4 different modulation points that you could set up. And this is basically parameters across this whole track. So something that we could hear right away would be tune. So if I go to tune, press yes, there's no value set there, but if I go up, as I go up in velocity, the tune's gonna go up. Let me go a little bit more. that's probably not the best. Let me do this. Go, release.
Oh, right. Do you have a comb filter on there?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Right.
Let me actually change this. All right, let's change this to comb filter frequency. Yes, there we go. So as I'm changing the velocity, it's actually changing the frequency on that track. And you have 4 different destinations that you could set for this. So we could go a bit crazy, and I'm gonna change the decay on it. So as I go up in velocity, the decay is gonna actually open up a bit more. So if I go to amp, release time, do decay time. Well, that's filter decay time. So if I'm lower in velocity,
Yeah, I'm done with that. That's tight.
and I actually turn the frequency negative, so now you could kind of hear it freaking it a little bit more. And I'll do an amp. I'm gonna send it to the reverb a bit more. And then let's do like LFO 2 speed down. So now if I record this, let me mute this. And if we go here and listen to it, that's a longer one. This one being shorter.
And you don't even need to use the 16 trigger.
No, you
the
don't.
trig mode,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You can just parameter lock the
Yeah,
velocity.
if I clear this, let me change this pattern, just this. If I go like velocity up here, velocity down, kind of just randomize it a bit. Let me change this back. I turn my probability down. I think my note's set really, really low.
Right, paste that, paste
And
that.
then like,
Turn the velocity up on a couple. Right, how we got to this from like that little sound in the beginning is kind of in a way alluding to where we're eventually going to go with this, which is like the weird exploratory nature of taking a sound and just turning it into something completely new. I'm curious about this, Jordan. You're tripping me up with this sentence. Would be cool to modulate the velocity directly with an LFO. What?
maybe,
Am I hearing that wrong?
I think what they're trying to say, to be able to modulate your
you can't,
velocity.
can't you?
No, you can't.
Oh, right.
Basically, all of these.
Because that's tied to the Trig.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, it's written into that. Got
So
it.
any of the parameters here on this Trig page can't be assigned to the LFO.
To the LFO.
Yeah.
Got it. All right, that's good to know. Let's see. Ghostface says comb. Yep, comb filter 2024. Year of the comb filter.
Yep.
I've been saying that since I got wind of the comb filter. Well, actually, you know what? Might as well jump into that now.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to show on Digitakt II is that the comb filter actually is kind of like a hidden synthesizer because, for example, on track 8 here, if I go into keyboard mode, this is just the comb filter that you're hearing. Because if we go and look at our sample, only the very, very tiny bit of the beginning is actually playing.
Yeah, if you turn the feedback down, you won't hear anything.
Right. So there, now we don't hear anything. So if I turn the feedback up and then turn our low pass up,
That's crazy.
there we go. Sorry about that interference. And what's cool is you can shape this up here with the low pass filter on the comb.
Yeah, the low pass kind of cuts it off.
And the way I'm able to do this, here, we'll set it up from scratch so it actually makes a ton of sense. We're on track 1, right? I'm gonna just pick a random sample, anything, this. And I'm gonna go to our length and make it really short. just so we have something to pluck the comb filter. Now, under our setup for our machine, we're going to choose comb and turn our filter frequency all the way up, or our feedback, I should say, and then open up our low pass and tune it down. Right, this is just like an oscillator, but what's hilarious is if you go and tune it to 84, hold down function, it moves in these musical tones. This is middle C, and if you want it a little lower, now you're saying, all right, if I go into keyboard mode, how do I get this to play the keyboard? Well, Digitakt II now has filter key tracking, and at 100%, it's just going to perfectly match the scale at which you're moving across your keyboard chromatically. Of course, right now we have a scale here. Right, and if I go down an octave. And it's just a cool, like, weird hidden monosynth in the Digitakt, and it's almost additive in this weird way. And if you really wanted to push this, check this out. We'll go to effects and lower the sample rate reduction, but make sure it's set to pre. It almost acts like a wavetable. Especially if you use this on a weirder sound. Let's just do, I don't know, a clap sound, for example. And then if you set it to post filter, overdrive, it's just like a weird way, like the fact that you have these options or parameters or possibilities, I guess, to set the sample to do this and the filter to forever resonate.
Yeah.
But then also have the filter be tuned to a specific note and then have the filter follow your keyboard playing.
Yep.
To then play a synth is like pretty wild. And I would do this normally even without the comb filter. Like if this was just set up to like multi-mode, I would just use a sound. Again, we have this clap sound. But if I just set it to forward loop, same thing, right? And it's just going on forever because it's on AHD, but if we do ADSR, and I can say, all right, decay time down, sustain there, and then yeah, overdrive it, amp it up. And then if you go into your source, change your start point.
You have a bunch of different waveforms.
Right. And I guess this also kind of hilariously leads me into my last point, which is, say you're doing all of this and you still need just like a normal sound. If I go to a new track and it's just, you know, kind of empty, there's nothing here, let's say, it's just the sound here. I'm going to change my sample to one of the built-in, whatchamacallit, the built-in oscillators. So, well, built-in sampled oscillators. So oscillator section here, you have your single cycle wave shapes, but this is where things get really wild, is you also have a wavetable folder. And it tripped me up at first how to use this. So for example, this organ classic, if I select this and it's now loaded onto track 2 and I just go to loop, oh, this is the most important part. This is where I kept messing up. Under machine, I want to set this to a grid machine. Now if I look at this wavetable, I turn the grid up to 64 and we'll set our loop mode to forward. I'm now choosing where and what slice I'm playing. Of the wavetable. And same thing with the keyboard. If I go down.
That's crazy.
And then yeah, you do something as simple as, let's set this to ADSR. In our LFO, I'll say, all right, you know what, go and change my, I don't know, slice select, yeah, sure. And then we'll turn it up a little bit. And another thing, remember that your LFO is bipolar. It's going positive and negative. So on our source page, I at least want the slice to be at around 33, a little bit above halfway of the 64 slices. So now this is going to be moving. And we'll set this to like 32, right here. Yeah, the fact, again, here's the weird wavetable.
Yeah.
And all these wavetables are included, right? You just go into here and you have a ton to choose from. And then you also have, under your oscillator, single cycle wave shapes. It's just a weird, trippy way to keep using the sounds that you already have or the sounds that it comes with and be like, all right, well, I need a bass sound. How do I get a bass out of this? Just loop it, find a tiny micro sample and just repeat it forever.
Yeah, it's really nice that included in the factory is you already have those samples just there. Like Rick was showing here inside your samples. There you go, push drag. You have everything, just oscillators available to you, sequence cycles and wavetables. But this could be applied to any sample. You just put the loop forward or reverse, and you just set the start and end point to be 0.
Yeah.
And you can make a sound out of any sound, essentially. We can get into some Retrig. Retrig's kind of straightforward. Let me see if these tracks are muted. Oh, I'm down too. Straightforwardness about the Retrig. You know, you could play your track kind of crazily and record that in. Rick and I were having fun with this. Using this as just like a play mode for your synth. If I go to this.
Yeah, and all you're doing there is just re-triggering at an 80th, right? And then playing the tune.
Please show it here, change the machine to comb filter.
Dude, put some reverb and chorus on there. Oh, yes. There it is. Mario's taking us there.
So that's Retrig fun. There's a lot of fun ways that you can utilize it.
Oh, actually, really quick. When Nate Create is asking if anybody knows if Overbridge is coming to Digitakt II, and it is, because Ghostface says nope, but that is wrong. It actually is coming. It's in private beta right now, so we're just getting it working.
Yeah, someone asked when it's going to be available. We don't have an exact date, but our team is working on it. And making sure everything's going to be working correctly.
I've used the beta and it does work, which is cool. The trippy part is when going from Digitakt, right, which you had 8 tracks in mono, and then you had the filter and the main out. That was about 12 tracks. But on Digitakt II, it's 16 tracks in stereo, so that's 32 channels, plus all the effects, the inputs and the outputs. So it's getting close to 40 tracks of audio of USB over USB. So we're really trying to make sure that we get that ironed out perfectly and properly.
And
so that when
all the parameters.
Not to mention syncing parameter, all the control that you get from your DAW and all that stuff. And then using the Overbridge standalone to just multi-track that in, or using the plugin to multi-track that in and have it all synced up with like less than 2 or 3 milliseconds of latency.
Yeah.
It turned into a pretty intense project. Going from the first one, we're like, oh yeah, we can do it on the 2, and then we're like, wait a minute, it's like doubled and then doubled again.
Let the wizards work.
Yeah, let the wizards work on their machine. But yeah, the retrigger modes, and then is this one? What's this one here?
Preset pool.
Cool.
Yeah, so kind of just a quick way, kind of explanation of what your preset pool is and how to utilize it. Something that has been kind of a constant in all of our majority of our devices, especially in the digis, is you have your sound browser, and then there's always like a sound pool, and in Digitakt we call it preset pool. And what this allows you to do is populate that pool with presets that are already saved or that you've saved within this project, and be able to access those very quickly, especially with sound locks and stuff. That's kind of the biggest thing, being able to go into here, press a trig, and then place a preset there, a snare, get a really simple beat going really quickly. So that's always been accessed through. There you go. My bad. talking about preset pools and sound locks, that's always been something that you've been able to do is parameter lock and set a preset per step.
Yeah.
Sound locking is what we call it. But one thing that's really dope is the preset pool, which now all of those presets that we saved inside that pool here, I have some presets here. Those are now can be accessed through this trig mode called preset pool. I just have some drum sounds in here. What's really cool about this is that these are tied to the track, so you're only using one track if you're recording this in, or even just changing parameters. So if I start going down on the notes, all those sounds.
Oh, that's interesting. So the preset's almost before all the parameters.
Yeah, exactly.
So like even if you're gonna have reverb or something.
Yeah, so these actually, that won't get it. The trig mode, because it's even your velocity. Because this is like the actual, kind of like what we were talking about, the LFO. It's a different control over the presets. But it could be fun, because usually, you start off at C5. But if you start going down, one of my favorite things to do is just like tune down stuff. And that in combination with like the step record mode can be really fun to start creating new rhythms that you wouldn't necessarily program in or live record in.
Yeah.
So if I go to just change the tempo, grid record, stay a jump, let's just do standard. If I hold function, now I could play these presets. So let me just hear hi-hat. Cool. Cool, I'll do that. Hold function. And now in step record mode, as I press these trigs,
this is so crazy.
It's gonna insert those trigs into these steps. So
you can see the green going across.
So now, if I go here, I want this to just be 16 steps actually. So let me just do that. Obviously, like, not everything works. But there we go, we got something going already. And then you can just expand on this. So maybe I want to change this a bit, change the filter, put the reverb up on here. Turn that delay down. Just a really quick thing that you could do. Another great thing with that step recording is that you could change it to jump. So if I clear this, step recording standard jump, now what this will do, it'll basically record that trig, but it'll use this trig length as the length that you want. So if you do like 3, for example, it's kind of like a weird odd timing, it jumps 3 steps.
And then once you're in step recording mode, like I tried it here, I went to jump. How do I get out of that? Do I just hit record?
Yeah, just hit record.
Oh.
Because it's basically like your
right.
live record
Because stop's
mode.
always lit. Got it.
It's always lit. And that works really well with like melodies too. So if I go into here, go into my presets.
Yeah. We're working on the volume, George. Thanks for the input. Someone's asking about the OT can lock to scale. Have I missed this?
Yes, it can.
Yeah.
That's a great,
This is super good. That's actually one of the notes I wanted to have. You want to run it? Yeah, I'll run it real quick. So basically what they're saying, that will be, was it Mark that asked that? There was somebody else who asked that. Well, ominous. Yeah, so check this out. We're going to go and use, we're on pattern 5, that's fine. And then we'll choose keyboard mode. All right, so we have this note here, right? If I go and choose a keyboard scale, so right now I'm just going to choose Ionian. Nah, you know what? Let's get moody with it. We'll use Aeolian. I'm going to go ahead and get out of keyboard mode and just put a couple notes in. If I press and hold this and on our trigger page, if I turn this, it's going to let me go out of scale. But if I press and hold, it'll actually stay within the scale. So I can just go and grab this and right, so now I'm within that scale. So it'll lock to the scale that I have set up in my keyboard setup for that specific track. And it's just a quick and easy way to kind of get the ball rolling when it comes to getting a sequence going. I hope that that's what you were asking. And then someone also asked, can you play a kit on one track? Well, what Mario was showing, which is playing your preset pool, you can load a kit, but make sure you have those sounds saved to the preset pool, and then yeah, you just go down into preset pool. You can see I have nothing loaded on mine, and you have access to a ton of pages in your preset pool as well. So it's not just the 16, it's like 64 or 128.
Show them really quick, kind of like a quick way to start loading it. So if you
how to load sounds into your preset pool would be super good to know.
Your preset list here, this button, it's your preset and your kit. So you have the ability to load, save, and manage your presets and your kits within this button. But right here on the preset side, you have pool. When you go to pool, you're just able to see what's in your pool. You can load it to a track, all that stuff, delete it. But in order to load stuff into your preset pool, you go to manage, and then you could go here and whatever sound you have. Let me exit this trig mode so we can listen to these. So manage. I'll turn this up a bit later. Oh, that's a crazy kick. So we're listening to this, and if I press left on this directional pad, could be add to preset pool. Yes. What's really dope is that you could just go here and just check a bunch of sounds, and then left, add to preset pool.
Oh, that's way faster.
Presets copied. So then now you go here. Let me put this back up to where it's at C5 so we could hear the intended pitch. Preset pool. Yeah, if I were to load a few more in there, you have the ability to
get you through there. Yeah, I forget how to change the page.
Back to here. Just load some more. That'll just page.
Was it? I forgot. Yeah, where was it at? Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's left and right.
You hold page and you press.
No, you just press left and right. And you go and you're jumping through the different pages of the loaded presets.
So it's 64 pages of presets. In a way, if any of you are familiar with Octatrack, it's kind of like your slots trig mode in Octatrack.
Right, yeah, slots was cool on there, being in the static. It's funny how it's creeping a little closer into the Octatrack range of what it could do.
OT still GOAT, but...
Yeah, exactly.
That's another story.
Digitakt is eternal. Another thing I wanted to mention was, you might notice that I clearly have a synthesizer right here next to me. This is my Novation Peak. I wanted to talk about MIDI Learn because it's really cool and it's really easy to use. So I'm going to just jump to this pattern here. I'm going to copy it because I actually like this pattern. This was a track I was working on last night. I know that's not me saying yeah. Well, that's me recorded saying yeah, but it's not me saying yeah now on my mic. But let's say I wanted to add some stuff going on from the peak, right? Well, this is cool. Let's say on track 9, I'm gonna make sure I have my port configure set up. This was tripping me up the other day. Okay, cool. Track 9. I'm gonna go to our machines and choose MIDI for track 9. Again, we're on track 9. Now, on our source page of track 9, I'm going to turn MIDI channel on to 1. That's the peak. So if I press play, right, I'm controlling my peak. Sweet. Now, we have 2 pages of CC values that we can assign to whatever we want on our synthesizer, but we now have MIDI Learn on Digitakt II, so I have the output, MIDI output of peak going into the input of my Digitakt. So for example here, I can press and hold on the second page of this first values 1 through 8 and 9 through 16. On this first page, we'll page down, you can see that little dot. I'll press and hold, it says MIDI Learn, and I'll wiggle my filter. And boom, you saw it stopped. Now it's assigned. So if I hold function and turn that value back on the first page, and I play something, and you can't hear it, there it is, right? And what's cool is if I'm in a scale again, actually, you know what? I know what notes I played, so we'll just say. There it is. We'll quantize that in. So that's now peak. Like if I turn up the reverb on peak or a resonance. Right?
But then you can grab all that with MIDI Learn.
Yeah, exactly. I can then adjust the filter resonance and all these other things on here. And you might have noticed that a couple tracks went solo. So what I'm going to do to make sure that you don't run into any weird issues is once you have your thing set up in MIDI Learn, you can go into your port configure and then make sure that you're like no longer receiving CCs. And that way, whenever you are moving stuff on peak, it's not going to be changing stuff on here. But right now, we're pretty much in the clear. But check this out. Now, I can say that that is set up to be my filter cutoff of peak. And if I wanted to rename that, you press and hold filter plus the knob, and you can randomize it, or I'm just going to go ahead and call it filter, FLTR. Awesome, filter. Now I can actually assign an LFO to change filter. It's right there. And I can turn it up. And I'm adding LFOs to my peak because these are separate from the LFOs that are on here. And I can set this up to be different, to say random and do hold mode. And then we'll go back here and then turn our speed way down. Or negative. Or say I don't want this and I want a little more control. I'm going to go into our page mode and hold down page. This pattern is 4 pages long, 64 steps. I'm just going to loop page 1. So now we're just going to look at page 1. And I can just hold this down and then parameter lock this. And then let's go and loop page 1 and 2. Or just take them off. So being able to go ahead and kind of set all this stuff up and MIDI learn it is really, really fast.
We got a question that I think we should point out. They're asking is when you save this and you go to a different pattern, you have to reassign this. I think you should let them know about kits.
Not even just kits, but just presets.
Oh yeah, presets. That's
is
right.
even wilder. So, all right, let's go ahead and assign a couple things. We're gonna also assign our.
CC.
My man. Receive CCs. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and learn our resonance, and then I'm gonna learn our sustain, and I'm gonna learn our release. Okay, now we'll turn these values on, and I'm not gonna name them all, I won't bore you to death, but I'll just put res here, just so we can see it in action. So we have our filter, resonance, sustain, and release. If I go here and go to presets, I can actually save this as a preset, and I'll just call it peak, right? Peak synth, which is cool. So P-E-A-K, peak. And you can name it to be whatever you want here, but watch this. I'm just gonna save it as is. Digitakt II knows that it's a MIDI track, so if I jump to another pattern and I jump to track 1 this time, I can go and load our presets, and I can go to our filter page here and say, hey, you know what? I only want to look at MIDI tracks, so show me my MIDI tracks. And boom, there's peak. So now peak is loaded. All my stuff is set up here. I can still play peak. I still have control over the filter cutoff, its resonance, and its sustain and release. Right? So you can save it as a preset, or you can save it as a kit. And the big difference there is if I want to save a preset, I can just pull up one synth at a time, especially after I've mapped like my entire studio to all the different synths with the 16 values that I find the most interesting to me. Or I can also just save it as a kit and say, you know what, every time I use Digitakt, let me load the kit that has my peak, my Moog, my SP404, my whatever you want, you know, hologram, microcosm, different effects pedals, and maybe even some VSTs. And I can load it up as a kit and just pull up all those tracks at once. So being able to go to your load presets and then just filter by MIDI tracks, to me is super big, because it just already knows that, hey, that was a MIDI track. We don't even have to apply the MIDI filter tag when we save it, but when we load it, it'll pull up there. I hope that makes sense.
Just so everybody knows, that applies to hardware. That also applies to software. If you have Ableton, if you have any plugins that you're going in, it doesn't have to be Ableton, just any VST plugins that you assign MIDI learn to it. Of course, you will have to load up the same project on whatever DAW you have, but all that works seamlessly if you save it the right way.
Yeah, someone says they mapped their, it's a Cooksonia map, the Forest Tele plugin. Yeah. It's super powerful, and it's like, you know, I'm so used to mapping stuff, like on the old MPCs, trying to map the specific CCs and like pulling out the manuals of every synth and figuring out what CC's what. And some of them are pretty universal, which is actually kind of
filter.
cool. Yeah, like if you go and look at the first page where you set up your source, you have pitch bend and like mod wheel, breath control, and aftertouch. So even if I were to just...
And then your patches too.
Why does this sound like that? Wah, 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 wah. What is it, automaton?
Oh yeah, the little... I mean, it's pretty sick.
But again, like, you're gonna have a different definition of sick. This here could just be set up to be like a different kind of playing thing. Oh, I put that on one, didn't I? Okay, so that's on there. And if you wanted to do weird stuff, check this out. This will be fun. I promise I won't make you hear this crazy sound anymore. So we have a single step here. This is where we get into trigless trigs. I want this step to be held for, let's do half a step, or a half a bar. And our notes, we'll just set it to be 3, 7, and 10. Give me a nice little minor 9 or whatever the hell this chord is. We'll get rid of that. So, wow, that is loud. We'll go ahead and lower our filter. That's cool. And then C5, we're actually going to tune it down to C4. Okay. So I can copy this and then paste it here. So we have that same note twice. And I can add a trigless trigger, which means on this step, yes, on this step here, only apply parameter changes, but don't re-trigger the note. So this is more apparent if we have like a little bit of attack. And here I'll say, all right, you know what? Give me a little bit of pitch bend. And the same thing goes for like any of the other parameters, not just pitch bend. I can also say on these steps here, change my filter cutoff and do something really, really weird while the note itself is still being held down. I hope that makes sense. So back on the port config, I'm gonna just turn that off. And then on this one here, we'll turn it down. Oh, got a delivery. Mario's cracking up. So again, I'm not re-triggering the chord, I'm just applying sounds to it on top of there. Yeah, basically some nice legato-y type of movements and sounds, as if you were to play a chord and then move the synth around yourself. Let's see if there's any other...
Someone was asking about Eurorack with the MIDI Learn. Obviously Eurorack and MIDI, CV and MIDI are different, but you would have to use a CV to MIDI device. And some of those are usually just like MIDI to CV, and it needs to be able to have that callback.
Right. There are a couple good ones. I know there's the MIDI by ALM, the noise engineering MIDI ones. I believe those two have. IntelliGel has one too. You just need to make sure it has MIDI in and out, because you want to receive MIDI from your modular machine. But then whatever you're moving on your modular machine, you need to make sure that, like, if I'm moving the filter, how am I going to get that filter movement back to that jack, right? The modular world opens up a whole another world of possibilities, but maybe in that sense, if you use something, I think it's like the polyend preset or something.
Also, if it's USB MIDI, it might be able to do that as well too. Yeah. I know some of them are USB.
As long as whatever device you have is sending MIDI back to your Digitakt, it'll be like, oh, okay, he's moving that knob. Let me move that knob for them now. And I can just set it up real quick and easily. Hermod Plus, I think that might be, yeah, something like that. Triangle Wave Records might be neat, actually, with the Digitakt II as the main controller. Yeah.
What up, Lazo?
Yeah, exactly. What's up, everyone? Let's see. What else is there? Let me look for some question marks. There was a bunch at the beginning. Let me scroll up and see what people were saying. Hopefully they're still around. Are the new Trig probabilities coming to other machines? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know if they're hitting their CPU load or max or what. It would be cool. I've been pushing for this whole, you know, give me the 16 different levels of velocity because it's so fast. My machine basically lives in velocity mode. Now I just jump between different tracks and I'm playing their velocities at different volumes, right? It's just such a quick and easy way to get some dynamic playing in there. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure if they will be coming to other machines. I don't quite understand the wavetable samples. Are you meant to scan through them like real wavetable? Yeah, pretty much. In that example earlier, I'm not sure. Yeah, this one here, that's the wavetable sample. And all I'm doing was moving the slice point as to what part was getting played. But as you can see, I have an LFO on there.
Yeah.
That's scanning it, and I can move it.
Yeah,
a
so it
little
does
slower.
take some setting up. It's not like if you go to a wavetable synthesizer, your position parameter, that's just set. That's kind of what Rick's doing right here. Your slice select point is going to be your scan parameter, so to speak, for a wavetable. So it's, you know, you're able to get the wavetable type synthesis. Obviously, it's mono. You have all your Digitakt II limitations on it, but that idea of being able to load this waveform and be able to scan through it using the single cycle wave method of synthesis gives you a lot more of a sound palette than you would have just having one single cycle wave looped.
You're not beholden to just the wavetables we put in. Like this, the whole folder section that I was showing earlier that shows
Just factory.
Our factory here, oscillators and wavetables. There's nothing special about these wavetables. They're just samples.
Yeah.
That's it. They're just like
I
a
said,
sample of a wavetable. And you could download a bunch of those and find them online.
yeah, like for example, you could, this sound right here, it could literally just be this sound, but if you go to machine, grid, and then change that to 64, and then let me do,
I mean, we don't need to be 5 octaves up.
bring it down.
Oh, I see what you're saying. To speed up at what rate it moves through the sample. Because that sample is so long. Got it. Yeah, so in the same way that he's scanning through like a minute-long sample, here you're just scanning through a really short oscillator wavetable sample, which is this here, and I'm just scanning back and forth on it on my machine. Dude, that's cool. I was wrong. Yeah, push it up to 5 octaves. That's dope.
And then, yeah, I mean, you got all your effects here. And then you go to your, get some weirdness going.
Yeah, exactly. Ephemerata says any sample is a wavetable. Exactly.
Yeah, so basically what we're kind of just pushing here is that you have all these different tools and parameters within the Digitakt. It does take some setting up, but your source is going to be a sample. And when you think of sample, you think of, you know, just a regular
Boom, bam.
drum sound, you know?
Yeah.
But
It doesn't have to be that.
yeah, it doesn't have to be that. If with the ability to, you know, loop stuff, and you know, you will get some weird artifacts clicking and stuff, and so it does take some finessing to really get it. So you can't really, obviously, you can't just use any sample. You might get some weird stuff happening. It really helps using a tuner. I've used this with a tuner, and you could go and tune your synth. Just set it up how you want it. Just kind of pulling a bunch of different sounds and different kind of like soundscape that you could get from this one device, with it being in stereo, the amount of tracks that you have, and different modulation points, different filters, and different type of sample machines. There's just a lot of different ways you could get a lot out of your Digitakt II, other than just loading in samples and playing stuff. So,
All right, let me look at some other questions.
got a few more minutes.
Why didn't they add Bluetooth to Digitakt II? I don't know. That would be kind of cool with some controllers. Maybe the latency tech is not there yet, or
Yeah, I mean, it's
size, trying to keep it in here. I don't know how
regulations. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's another one. Like for example, trying to put like battery powered rechargeable battery things is a whole other process. B Jammin says, when will you have sample slicing? I don't know. I would love that. Grid gets pretty close to that, right?
Yeah.
It's similar to the slice mode on Digitakt I. And I guess one thing that's nice with the grid is you can change the length of how many slices get played. So if you do want a little bit more granularity in the slicing of the sample itself, I usually just turn up to 32 or 64 and set my length to basically full, and then just use my amp page. Am I making any sense? Use my amp page to control how long the note is held down. It's kind of like a gate mode, if you will. And when will we get Digitakt II on payment plans with Zounds and etc.? I don't know. I don't know if that's even under our control or if that's a Zounds thing.
Ask them.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
So that might be a Jake question.
Jake.
Jake. Let's see what else is there. Thanks for those questions, Beat Jammin'. I appreciate that. Can it fold my laundry? No, not yet. Maybe with the big AI update coming. Just kidding. No, it cannot do that. I like the clicks. Yeah, people love the clicks. People hate the clicks. I know Mario's a slammer, but he's been slamming his machines for years and they still work. We even got an analog rhythm that fell out of a car at 80 miles an hour.
Oh, dude, analog 4.
Oh, analog 4.
Yeah.
The back was cracked in half.
It's cracked.
And it still worked. All the samples or all the projects are still there. Let's see. I don't think the polyphony would be possible on Digitakt II. The voice locking thing.
There's a few like workarounds. Obviously, there's different MIDI controllers, but my favorite thing, the lock to scale. So right here, if I go to keyboard setup, melodic minor, root note A. If I go to my Trig page, if you, like Rick was saying, if you hold it down, it'll lock to the note, and you can actually see it's saying +4, +2, +6. If I just don't hold it down, it'll just +1 and 2. So you actually see that it's locking to whatever scale that is. So that's C. Go to this track. Go up 1. Go up 1. Let's just do randomness. I'm holding it down, holding the encoder down, and just picking random notes. All right, trust me. Now.
What the heck did you just do?
Basically,
oh, wait, did you copy?
I copied the same wavetable just across all the tracks.
Oh.
But now I'm changing the note and the trig
freaking
parameters.
Blew my mind, yeah. Oh, and then it's in scale.
Yeah, so you just hold this down.
And you're changing the note of this.
Yep. And what's really cool, what's really crazy
hilarious.
is now I can change the wavetable per track. So if I go like this, this one go to H, right?
Sorry, no, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at a question.
Yeah, it's just, and then you go here, Euclidean mode, and you just, start doing some craziness to it. So, I don't know, let's do randomness. No. But you get the idea. If you start recording stuff
That's how they did this preset pattern, B15. Listen to this thing.
Is everything muted?
Oh, yeah, everything is muted. Listen to nothing.
Dude, they just, Dude,
I was like, how is this possible?
Jansen right there.
Of course
If you see his Instagram, he'll play this live for you.
Really? Listen, then it comes in the beat.
Dude, it's insane.
I was like, who is on this level? I came across, yeah, of course it's Jansen. I wanted to answer a question that it made me laugh in a good way. I promise I wasn't laughing at your question. It's just the typo. And it's, they're new to Digitakt. It's Jesse. Hello, Jesse Hawk.
I got a Band-Aid from all the click noise.
Jesse asks, how would you link different songs to perform love with? I'm pretty sure Jesse means live, but I love that it's like, how do I perform love with this thing? I'll show you right now. Not how to make love, but how to perform a lovely live set. In song mode, on the old Digitakt, this used to be bank. And now you just have 16 different songs here. And we're about to run a little over, that's fine. Yeah, that's okay. So here you have your 16 different songs, and this is how they're all linked. So, for example, I have track 1, which is, actually I think song 9 was my song. Yeah, this was my perform live thing, and I was going crazy with this at one point. And then I can just go and... Right, so now it's just playing this song, but what's cool is at any point, I can just go and jump into a pattern. And then after the ending of this song here, you can see it's showing me there, it's playing row 6 out of 17. I'll show you that in a second. It's gonna jump into that crazy Jansen song right here. Boom. Now we're playing the next part and we're off to the races, right? So song mode here just gives you access to your 16 songs really quickly and easily. And if I go to track 5 or song 5, I can edit that song. And to build your songs up, you can say from a new chain, and I can choose what I wanna play. So for example, here I can say, all right, let's play pattern E1 twice, and then we'll go to E5, and then we'll go back to B15 4 times, right? Awesome. You can do whatever you want. You can have 99 of these, and then you say yes, and you choose on each row, what is it going to be called? All right, well, this is going to be our intro, then we're going to go into the bridge. This will be the breakdown, right? The break here. Oh, that's not jam. Break, and then here's the drop. And then maybe you go into a jam. And what's cool is, all right, the jam comes in, but I want the jam to repeat 8 times. And when the jam first comes in, let's mute those first 4 tracks, and then I'll hold down function and press down, and then bring those 2 tracks in. So I just copied that row down. And this song now lives on song 5, and I can just jump to song 9, I can jump to song 5, jump to song 1, jump to song 2, and this is how you can tie up your songs and chain them up and get ready to perform love with them. Or live. Either one works. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah,
Jesse.
one other question that I think we could answer, even though we haven't answered it yet. Yes, Antonio, any chance external monosynth sampling dual mode will be fixed? Yes.
Oh, yeah. That's
in the
technically
works.
already fixed. We're just seeing what else there might come up that we want to do. Yeah.
Pulgas. So, can you cue songs? Yes, in a way you can. You have your,
Yeah, it just waits till the end of the pattern.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
The end of the song. So if I go to my song, edit here, song mode. If I go to my, I think I have one. This song's loaded up. Obviously, it's gonna go to my song edit. It's gonna play through all this. But let me cue up this other song. Yeah, song 3 is getting queued up, and it should wait until.
Yeah, at the end of this row. There it is.
Yeah, then it goes into the next song.
Oh, I want to hear where this goes. Here it
See what's
comes.
going on.
Oh, Mario's getting super experimental. I think it's just super long. Look at that. It's like you have it repeating.
Oh, because let's see, song, it's repeating 4 times. And then do I have anything muted? I think that's the thing. Oh, what's going on now?
Sick.
All right, there you go.
All right, there's another song.
And then we'll cue up to another song.
LeBron says 16 songs in song mode. Yeah. So here's your songs. You got 16 of them. And then each song has 99 rows, right? These rows here. I can just keep adding them. I'm just destroying my song right now. I better not save this later. And then every row can play any pattern. So even if you have a pattern that basically has a different song from the previous pattern, you could just jump to that pattern. And then every row can also repeat up to 32 times. And then you can also say, you know what, only play the first 2 steps of that song. One thing that's really tight, like if we go and look at this here, I have a little fill section. Check this out. So when I play the intro, this part comes in and it repeats the fill 2 steps 4 times. Watch. Boom, 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 boom. Then into the chorus. So you can do like little weird fill type of things with
Yeah.
the song mode.
And
thing.
what's really cool in the song mode, I mean, you could use it how you want to use it. You could build one song. Obviously, it could be this. It's a collection of patterns, but you could also build a whole set in here as well too. So like you could have this be one whole song, but then if you go down and start adding different patterns in here, you could essentially have like 5, 6, 2, 3 different songs in one song because you're just pulling from the patterns, right? So it's going to be keeping that information of the BPM, and it'll cue it up right how you want it. You could have different drops, so it all depends on how you want to use song mode.
Yeah.
Super powerful. The being able to have your mutes, pattern mutes assigned to your song rows is really powerful too,
Yeah.
because if you have just one pattern with everything on there, you could go ahead and just use your mutes to sequence out your whole song there. So
Yeah, and it's, I mean, last thing before we roll out of here, just moving the song mode to an actual button versus on the Mark 1 where it was like a little bit of a Street Fighter combo to get to it. I use song mode a little bit on the Mark 1, but on here I use it all the time just to make like a simple chain of 4 patterns that will loop. Because at the end of your song, you can choose what it's going to do, and a lot of times I'll just have it loop. And I can just have a little bit more of a complicated pattern if the 8 bars already aren't enough for me and I want to make like a 16-bar thing. It's just an easy way to jump back and forth between all of that. But with that, I mean, song mode's tight. I've been using it way more than I thought I would, which is cool. And I think it's just because it's just brought up to the surface. And it's just a quick way to jump into a song and then jump back into a pattern. You don't have to kind of fight with it to get back and forth.
Exactly. Because without it, it's just easy to recall your songs. You everything's there.
Last thing, if I press pattern, there's no more countdown.
Yeah.
It's not like hurry. You have 4 seconds before I'm just going to ignore. You just stay here and you can just jump between your bangs and you're like, all right, you know what? Maybe I don't want to change patterns. You just hit no. So thanks for having that. I'm glad that was an option. But yeah. Anyway, any other questions if you're watching this live or if you're watching this after the fact, leave them down below in the comments. We'll try and get to them as best as we can. I appreciate you all for coming through and saying what's up. Anyway, let's see if there's any last little thing.
Can you copy and paste songs from
other projects? I'm not sure. Can you? I don't think so.
I heard EasyBot got into a fight with Cuckoo at Zero Boots. Cuckoo had to shave his head.
Damn.
You guys could read the rest of that. I don't think EasyBot was at Zero Boots, but
that's funny. Yes, I
Gigi,
still use.
We'll get back at you on that.
Yeah, and I do still use my Octatrack, Digitakt II. They're kind of still weirdly different. How far you can push things in the Octatrack than the Crossfader. The Crossfader's insane. But appreciate y'all. That beat is sick. Is this a song mode? Yeah, crank it. Later, y'all. Peace.